Welcome back to another art class with Miss Rickard. Today, we are going to be learning about value and what value is and how to use it to create artwork. So let's start with the idea of what is value. You might have heard the word value in your math classes when you talk about place value, the hundreds place, the tens place, or even the ones place. You might have heard about value when people talk about money and what money is worth and how you can exchange pennies for quarters and quarters for nickels and dimes and dollars. Well, both of these things are value, but it is not the type of value we are talking about for art. So, what is value in art? Well, quite simply, value in art is the lightness and the darkness of a color. Sometimes colors can be very light, sometimes they can be very dark, and this helps us understand shadows and contrast and a three-dimensional world. Let's take the color red, for example. If we take just a little bit of red and slowly add white to it over and over and over again, that red becomes lighter. When you add white to a color, you are creating a lighter color. We call this a tint. But this also works when you add black to a color. So if we take red again and this time slowly add a little bit of black over and over again, you'll notice that the color red is slowly getting darker. This also shows value. When you add black to a color, you're creating a shade. Let's see an example. Here we have a traditional value scale. We see the red one that we just practiced, but on top of this we see a gray scale, starting with the number 1, which is the lightest value, white, and working our way all the way across to number 10, the darkest value, black. Artists have been using the idea of value for a very long time to create a three-dimensional look in their artwork. Here we see some very basic three-dimensional forms, but by using a very light value, we can see where the sun or a lamp is shining on these objects. And by using a darker value, we can see where these objects have a cast shadow. So the idea of value helps us see the world in 3D. Let's see how artists use value. In our first example, we see a blue painting by Pablo Picasso. Here, an old man is holding a guitar. Now, other than the guitar, most of this painting is using the color blue. We see a variation of values here. We see some very light blues near his hair that look almost white. And we see some very dark blues next to the guitar and under his arms that look almost black. Pablo Picasso here is using a value scale in the blue family to create a three-dimensional look to this old man's body and his arms and his legs and his outfit. But he's not the only artist that uses value. Let's take a look at Georgia O'Keeffe. This landscape by Georgia O'Keeffe also uses value. In the places where the sun is hitting those hills and mountains, there is a very light brown color, almost a light tan. But in the back and in the dark places where shadows are, we see a darker gray, almost even black added to that brown. Those would be the shadows. And throughout the entire landscape, using those lights and darks together, we have a value of different browns included. We're going to try creating some value together. You will need pencil and paper at the end of this video. I'll be showing you how to create a value scale going from the lightest value to a dark value using pencils. We will also be talking about how to create three-dimensional forms using this idea of light and dark to shadow. It's actually easier than you'd think. And lastly, I'm going to give you some ideas and show you how you can create cool works of art using the idea of value. It's going to be a good time. We're going to have some fun together. Go ahead and find your pencil and paper, and let's get started.